Hey y'all, thanks for visiting. While I plan to make a video talking about the deeper implications of what Mozilla is doing to the Support Mozilla community, I figured that over the Thanksgiving holiday I could focus on giving thanks. And so while the title of this video is a bit tongue-in-cheek, I realized that many people weren't even aware of the controversy. Support Mozilla isn't Firefox, and if you aren't aware of developments in AI or communities, you might not be clear how it all affects you, a Firefox user. Let's step back a bit to talk about Support Mozilla, how it relates to Firefox, and the broader Mozilla community. Let me give you a quick intro to Support Mozilla, also known as Sumo. Support Mozilla is Mozilla's help desk and knowledge base. This is where you can get help for Mozilla products like Firefox and Thunderbird. There are links to the knowledge base in the products themselves, in place of in-product documentation. The help desk and knowledge base are all volunteer-driven, and people spend hours of their time helping other people use and troubleshoot Mozilla products. Mozilla isn't shy about asking for people's help on the Support Mozilla website. They help contributors feel like they're doing a good thing. They literally say things like, "Save the world from your couch." There are 3 ways that people can contribute to Mozilla on Sumo. They can answer support questions, they can write help articles, and they can localize support content. Mozilla is pretty complimentary towards their localizers, calling them heroic on this page. Let's fast forward to a few weeks ago. On November 4th, the Locale leader of the Japanese support community on Sumo very publicly resigned. You should read what the Locale leader, Marzef, said themselves, but here's my summary. Marzef has been contributing to Mozilla for over 20 years. Even before Sumo existed, they were a Locale leader. Someone who coordinates localization efforts for Locale. Mozilla enabled machine translation on October 22nd on the Japanese Locale. Marzef quit on November 4th. It took less than 2 weeks to scare away someone who had spent the last 20 years contributing to the Mozilla mission. Before Mozilla introduced AI, Locale leaders were a core part of the localization process. The documented process is to send the Locale leader a private message to get started. Let's take a look at what Locale leaders do. According to the documentation, leaders led localization efforts by building culture, creating and updating style guides, and via mentorship and review. You can see that Locale leaders do a lot of work to create community around localization. This is all work that Mozilla is throwing away in its move to machine translation. Let's go back to the post where Marzef quit as Locale leader. It's easy to see why Marzef is angry and in pain. As a Locale leader, Marzef maintained the Japanese style guide. As a contributor for over 20 years, Marzef likely had a hand in nearly every article on the Locale. Those were the articles that were overwritten by Mozilla and its machine translation bot, SumoBot. The overwritten articles represent not hours, but years of effort. A real labor of love, given that volunteers are not getting paid. So without discussion, without communication, without testing, untold years of human effort were overwritten by a machine with no love in its heart. Marzef also tells us that the bot makes it hard to train new contributors in process and style. Before I continue, I think I and the community should thank Marzef. Thank you for the over 20 years as a Mozillian. Thank you for helping Mozilla create culture. Thank you for helping millions of Japanese Mozilla fans. Thank you for caring. I read and appreciate all the comments on my videos. One of the comments that came up a few times was the idea that none of this really mattered. Machine translations are good now. It's not like we're really missing anything. I got a really great comment on YouTube from PandaKekok9 that really dispels that notion. They pointed out that Mozilla shouldn't be calling what SumoBot is doing localization if what it's doing is translation. Localize.com says, translation is the process of converting text from one language to another. Localization goes beyond translation to ensure content is culturally appropriate and well received in the target market. Translation prioritizes language accuracy, while localization pays specific attention to cultural, social, and linguistic nuances. Localizers were consulting the style guides to localize content. Here's the one for Japan. What Mozilla is telling us is that yes, actually, the bots are better than a human. When Lanaxiac reported on this, Mozilla gave them a statement that doesn't tell the truth. Mozilla says that the move to machine translations was introduced publicly. That's true, so let's take a look.
Our goal here is to kind of just test this out. I've already done a proof of concept of this that we ran. We didn't, release it live, but we ran it locally. We don't see this as something that's just going to be perfect. We see this as sort of an aid. I don't see this as something that supplants the community. Translations will be generated in the locales where we have it enabled, but the community can, not approve those translations. They can reject the translations and just keep doing their own. And also, we wanted it to, if there were prior translations, this is something that I particularly wanted to make sure we did, is we respected prior translations.
Mozilla says that the point of machine translations is to fill in the gaps, and that humans continue to review and approve translations. But Marzaf is telling us that the bot isn't filling in the gaps, it's overwriting stuff written by humans. Humans don't need to approve the bot approves itself.
Review that, and then if it's not reviewed that within that period of time, we'll automatically approve it to keep I think the biggest danger we're trying to avoid is, having out-of-date translations. Localizers can reject machine translations, and then they can reject them and then choose to use parts of them or choose not to use parts of them, whatever they wish.
Mozilla knew at the time that the bot doesn't respect the style guides across the locales.
I thought that we had in the MVP to respect this Firefox style guides.
We don't yet have it in there to, the prompt doesn't include the style guides yet. That's something that we have on our to-do list.
Months later, Marzaf pointed out the same fact in his quote note. On the call, someone pointed out that in Dutch, there may be two words for a button, and that Firefox might use one of them. The localization community on Sumo would obviously use the correct one.
The translation team of Firefox the Dutch translation team has chosen in the past for a certain wording for the translation, and we use that also into the Sumo support articles. When we say press the button support, then we put the Dutch translation or the used Dutch translation in.
Right.
AI will translate, or machine translation will do the real English translation, and that can be something different, a different word in Dutch. So that's what I want. The Dutch team is really trying to keep the Sumo articles using the same wording as the user interface of Firefox, Thunderbird, and other products.
I see. Yeah,
and
that's a good
nice
point.
And that's just buttons. The general text, you can translate it with machine translation, and maybe the wording is a bit wrong, or the sentence, but we point users to a certain button. Okay, press that, look for this, and under this you can find that. And if the wording is different, then the user will be disorientated.
Right.
Or something.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, I'll make a note of that, because
that is just one example of localization, and one not handled by machine translation. And Mozilla said that they realize that AI makes mistakes, and they don't want to force this onto the community.
We still rely on the community, of course, to review the translations, because as everybody knows, AI makes mistakes. The whole goal of us doing this was to respect the community, in the sense that we didn't want to force it. It's available. Translations will be generated in the locales where we have it enabled.
Months later, when Marzaf pointed out that human contributions were being overwritten, Mozilla staff explained that it's logical for machines to overwrite human contributions.
Machine translation goes and translates from the original English article. So any kind of additional information a localizer might have added in the localized article, machine translation doesn't understand that this is extra information and will go and change it. That is logical. Machine translation thinks about the English article, so tries to localize on the English article.
Mozilla says that this is all a miscommunication. Mozilla clearly understands on multiple levels that the AI doesn't actually localize articles, it simply translates them. If Mozilla cared about that, they would simply revert the changes that SumoBot made, and the Locale leader could work with the developers to ensure that SumoBot adhered to the guidelines in place. Why hasn't that happened? In August, some Mozilla staff actually believed that style guides were being adhered to. Today, everyone is on the same page that the AI doesn't do localization. Since Mozilla is going forward with overwriting already localized articles with machine-translated slop, Mozilla is telling their user base that machine translations are good enough. If Mozilla thought localization mattered, they would let the localizer's word stand instead of automatically believing that the bots are doing a better job. In their latest updates, Mozilla says that if your revision is based on the empty version, your changes will not require additional approval before publishing. Mozilla is showing that they trust machine translation more than human contributions, even when those contributions have been previously approved. This leaves Locale leaders in a very strange place. They are very clearly being ignored in the move to AI, and Mozilla has said nothing about their role going forward. More miscommunication, I guess. On this Thanksgiving Day, let us give thanks to Marzef and to all the other contributors on Sumo whose contributions are being overwritten by a bot that has no connection to the locale it is slopping about. Long live Mozilla.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? If you go to Harlan County, there is no neutral there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for D.H. Blair. Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
If you like this video, share it with a friend. I'd love your thoughts on new video ideas.